From Book 22, Desolation Before Troy. And when at last the two men faced each other, Hector was the first to speak. He said, "I will no longer fear you as before, son of Peleus, though I ran from you round Priam's town 3 times and could not face you. Now my soul would have me stand and fight, whether I kill you or am killed. So come, we'll summon gods here as our witnesses, none higher, arbiters of a pact. I swear that, terrible as you are, I'll not insult your corpse, should Zeus allow me victory in the end, your life as prize. Once I have your gear, I'll give your body back to Achaeans. Grant me, too, this grace." But swift Achilles frowned at him and said, "Hector, I'll have no talk of pacts with you, forever unforgiven as you are. As between men and lions there are none, no concord between wolves and sheep, but all hold one another hateful through and through. So there can be no courtesy between us, no sworn truce, till one of us is down and glutting with his blood the war god Ares. Summon up what skills you have. By God, you'd better be a spearman and a fighter. Now, there is no way out. Pallas Athena will have the upper hand of you. The weapon belongs to me. You'll pay the reckoning in full for all the pain my men have borne who met death by your spear." He twirled and cast his shaft with its long shadow. Splendid Hector, keeping his eye upon the point, eluded it by ducking at the instant of the cast. So shaft and bronze shank passed him overhead and punched into the earth. But unperceived by Hector, Pallas Athena plucked it out and gave it back to Achilles. Hector said, "A clean miss. Godlike as you are, you have not yet known doom for me from Zeus. You thought you had, by heaven. Then you turned into a word-thrower, hoping to make me lose my fighting heart and head in fear of you. You cannot plant your spear between my shoulders while I am running. If you have the gift, just put it through my chest as I come forward. Now, it's for you to dodge my own. Would God you'd give the whole shaft lodging in your body. War for the Trojans would be eased if you were blotted out, bane that you are." With this he twirled his long spear shaft and cast it, hitting his enemy mid-shield, but off and away the spear rebounded. Furious that he had lost it, made his throw for nothing, Hector stood bemused. He had no other. Then he gave a great shout to Deiphobus to ask for a long spear, but there was no one near him, not a soul. Now in his heart the Trojan realized the truth and said, "This is the end. The gods are calling deathward. I had thought a good soldier Deiphobus was with me. He is inside the walls. Athena tricked me. Death is near and black, not at a distance, not to be evaded. Long ago, this hour must have been to Zeus's liking and to the liking of his archer son. They have been well disposed before, but now the appointed time's upon me. Still, I would not die without delivering a stroke, or die ingloriously, but in some action memorable to men in days to come." With this he drew the whetted blade that hung upon his left flank, ponderous and long, collecting all his might, the way an eagle narrows himself to dive through shady cloud and strike a lamb or cowering hare. So Hector lanced ahead and swung his whetted blade. Achilles, with wild fury in his heart, folded upon his chest his beautiful shield, his helmet with 4 burnished metal ridges nodding above it, and the golden crest Hephaestus locked there tossing in the wind. Conspicuous as the evening star that comes amid the first in heaven at fall of night and stands most lovely in the west, so shone in sunlight the fine-pointed spear Achilles poised in his right hand, with deadly aim at Hector at the skin where most it lay exposed. But nearly all was covered by the bronze gear he took from slain Patroclus, showing only, where his collarbones divided neck and shoulders, the bare throat where the destruction of a life is quickest. Here then, as the Trojan charged, Achilles drove his point straight through the tender neck, but did not cut the windpipe, leaving Hector able to speak and to respond. He fell aside into the dust, and Prince Achilles now exulted, "Hector, had you thought that you could kill Patroclus and be safe? Nothing to dread from me, I was not there. All childishness. Though distant then, Patroclus's comrade in arms was greater far than he, and it is I who had been left behind that day beside the deep-sea ships who now have made your knees give way. The dogs and kites will rip your body. His will lie in honor when the Achaeans give him funeral." Hector, barely whispering, replied, "I beg you, by your soul and by your parents, do not let the dogs feed on me in your encampment by the ships. Accept the bronze and gold my father will provide as gifts, my father and her ladyship my mother. Let them have my body back, so that our men and women may accord me decency of fire when I am dead." Achilles the great runner scowled and said, "Beg me no beggary by soul or parents, whining dog. Would God my passion drove me to slaughter you and eat you raw. You've caused such agony to me. No man exists who could defend you from the carrion pack, not if they spread for me 10 times your ransom, 20 times, and promise more as well. Aye, not if Priam, son of Dardanus, tells them to buy you for your weight in gold. You'll have no bed of death, nor will you be laid out and mourned by her who gave you birth. Dogs and birds will have you, every scrap." Then, at the point of death, Lord Hector said, "I see you now for what you are. No chance to win you over. Iron in your breast your heart is. Think a bit, though. This may be a thing the gods in anger hold against you on that day when Paris and Apollo destroy you at the gates, great as you are." Even as he spoke, the end came, and death hid him. Spirit from body fluttered to undergloom, bewailing fate that made him leave his youth and manhood in the world. And as he died, Achilles spoke again. He said, "Die, make an end. I shall accept my own whenever Zeus and the other gods desire." At this he pulled his spearhead from the body, laying it aside, and stripped the blood-stained shield and cuirass from his shoulders. Other Achaeans hastened round to see Hector's fine body and his comely face, and no one came who did not stab the body. Glancing at one another, they would say, "Now Hector has turned vulnerable, softer than when he put the torches to the ships." And he who said this would inflict a wound. When the great master of pursuit Achilles had the body stripped, he stood among them, saying swiftly, Friends, my lords and captains of Argives, now that the gods at last have let me bring to earth this man who wrought havoc among us more than all the rest, come, we'll offer battle around the city to learn the intentions of the Trojans now. Will they give up their strong point at this loss? Can they fight on, though Hector's dead? But wait, why do I ponder? Why take up these questions? Down by the ships Patroclus' body lies, unwept, unburied. I shall not forget him while I can keep my feet among the living. If in the dead world they forget the dead, I say there too I shall remember him, my friend. Men of Achaia, lift a song. Down to the ships we go and take this body, our glory. We have beaten Hector down, to whom as to a god the Trojans prayed. Indeed, he had in mind for Hector's body outrage and shame. Behind both feet he pierced the tendons, heel to ankle. Rawhide cords he drew through both and lashed them to his chariot, letting the man's head trail. Stepping aboard, bearing the great trophy of the arms, he shook the reins and whipped the team ahead into a willing run. A dust cloud rose above the furrowing body, the dark tresses lowed behind, and the head so princely once lay back in dust. Zeus gave him to his enemies to be defiled in his own fatherland. So his whole head was blackened. Looking down, his mother tore her braids, threw off her veil, and wailed, heartbroken to behold her son. Piteously his father groaned, and round him lamentation spread throughout the town, most like the clamor to be heard if Ilion's towers top to bottom seethed in flames. They barely stayed the old man, mad with grief, from passing through the gates. Then in the mire he rolled, and begged them all, each man by name. Relent, friends, it is hard, but let me go out of the city to the Achaean ships. I'll make my plea to that demonic heart. He may feel shame before his peers, or pity my old age. His father, too, is old. Peleus, who brought him up to be a scourge to Trojans, cruel to all, but most to me, so many of my sons in flower of youth he cut away. And though I grieve, I cannot mourn them all as much as I do one, for whom my grief will take me to the grave, and that is Hector. Why could he not have died where I might hold him? In our weeping, then, his mother, now so destitute, and I might have had surfeit and relief of tears.